Welcome back to Used to Sew, a podcast about sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host, Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about the Style-O-Matic, plus a few other mid-century, mid-tier Singer sewing machines, and how to clean a rusty machine that needs new paint, with a bonus follow-up letter from a fan with a question we should have answered already. This episode's purpose is a casual survey of Singer machines that weren't at the top of the line for cost, but worked just as well as their more famous counterparts. It is sometimes easy to be blinded by the biggest and bestest of a category, but in real life, a lot more of the low and mid-tier machines actually went out into the world in such a way that you are likely to run across one in your regular life. We're focusing here on the end of the good era of U.S. sewing machines. That last gasp of all-metal machines frantically diversifying their perceived appeal to increasingly subdivided economic units like teenagers. And since that was, in fact, a long time ago, we also take a trip into the basics of cleaning a machine from that era after it has been unearthed from decades of obscurity. We wrap up the episode with a letter from listener Liz Pike, who has followed in our footsteps of getting a Davis vertical feed machine and needs some follow-up advice on how to modify the machine for fitting the new industrial needles. We do apologize for not bringing this info up sooner, but thanks to the engagement of our listener, we're getting to it now. But that's for the end. To start, let's get into the era of the O-Matic.
Well, welcome back, sewing machine fans near and far. It's good to be back again. I mean, it's always good to be back. A little structure in the life is a good thing.
It is. I structure my entire week around what am I recording today, or editing, or publishing.
Right. I got derailed off onto my other profession. One of my bands had a big show this weekend, so I'm still kind of a little like, what? It was a great show, though. You had to stand on stage and be really loud, play bass guitar, sing harmonies, look cool. Of course, I was wearing things that I made because that's how I originally got into this whole thing. Was I was in a band and I wanted to make cool band clothes, and then I got a job fixing sewing machines, blah, blah, blah. So some things haven't changed. I was wearing not only clothes that I had made, but also the straps on my bass guitar, which goes around my waist and over my shoulders, are custom made because I've got spinal problems. So I need a special harness, a seat belt. And also I've got special thumb braces that I made. I made these stuff, leather and sewing machines. Made them on the VS3. Yeah. I think my shoes and my hat were the only non-handmade things. Because I wear my special homemade underwear. We have a YouTube channel about that.
This is true.
YouTube episode. But anyway, so now here we are back in sewing machine land. And I thought for today, I'm going to get away from all the heavy history and like we've been talking about triangle shirtwaist, and we talked about Wheeler and Wilson, and we've been talking about lots of stuff from the big mustache times, the 1900s and stuff. And I'll drag us back up into where a lot of us are right now, which is here we are in 2026, and we're interested in vintage sewing machines, and they seem to show up on our doorsteps, or we actually go out and find them and all that. So we're going to get back to that little basic nugget of where this whole thing started was, oh my God, is that a sewing machine? Of course it is. Open the cabinet. What is it? So today I want to talk about a couple of Singer models that you very likely will encounter in a thrift store or garage sale or your Aunt Gladys's closet or various things like that. And these really are, I think we left off in the whole Singer timeline with the touch and throws. No, we didn't even go into them really. We kind of bounced off of them and like, ew, let's go back to the vintage stuff.
Touched it with a 10-foot pole, ran away screaming.
Yeah. But there's a few more machines that I missed in there because we were talking about the top of the line stuff. Okay, let's go back to the O-Matics. Okay, the Slant-O-Matics. Those are the top of the line 401A, 500A. Those were the tops. And then they had their slightly less little variations with less doodads, but that whole line, and they all had the slant needle and all this new cool woo-woo bells and whistles, tail fin styling, two-tone touring machines, right? Cams, buttonholers. Was that the only thing Singer was selling? No. They had a moderately priced line as well as some budget machines, right? You got to have a whole line. This is another thing that Singer had above a lot of the other manufacturers. Actually, they had driven everybody out of business pretty much by this point. We're talking late 50s, early 60s. And they didn't just have one or two models. They would have a line of machines, usually at least 5 or 6 new models all at once, and they represented everything from your top of the line, so let's just say the 500A Slant-O-Matic, and then down from that, what would be the next thing? Well, it would be still slant needles, but maybe one that was a slant needle and zigzag only, no cams, or a slant needle and a straight stitch. Okay, but this whole slant needle thing, that's the top class. Okay, what's in the middle class? Well, we'll get to that. What's in the lower class? What's in the lower class? I think you can still buy a long shuttle, long bobbin machine.
Wow.
Yeah, I think those were still produced up until right in the late 50s and 60s. Why? Because if you're a very old person and that's what you learned on and your machine breaks, you don't want to learn a new one. I ran into this with customers often. And then up from that would be a 99. And in the early 60s, that would have been probably the 185K, the little mint green one, which is basically a 99 in a fancy coat. Okay, so those are your like budget lines. Maybe the Spartan was still around, the 192K. It didn't even have a light or a case or anything. But what was in the middle? In the middle, between your budget old long shuttle and your Slant-O-Matic 500A is the Style-O-Matic.
Style-O-Matic? Wow. That is just the amount of like cone bras and hairspray just rolling off of this name. My goodness.
This is early 60s. Early 60s. And when you look at the Style-O-Matics, all scripted out in 60s script. Okay, this is the little sister of the Slant-O-Matic, Style-O-Matic. Style-O-Matic has a straight vertical needle. It's not got that new slant needle, bell, whistle, hoo-ha. It's a basic straight needle, just like your old 66 or 15, basic stuff there. And it's not a rotary. Okay, your top of the line 500A is a rotary. It uses a 66 drop-in bobbin. The Style-O-Matic uses a top drop-in bobbin, but it's the oscillating old 66 back and forth thing, so it's not a rotary. Okay, so there's just these little things that are less. So it's an oscillating 66. It's got a vertical needle, belt drive motor, not gear drive. So your Style-O-Matics, you could get the 3. Okay, so Style-O-Matic. I always knew the numbers. I didn't really realize this was the name of these machines. They're tan. They look like they belong in the family, right? They're the same color as the Slant-O-Matics. The Style-O-Matics are the 328K, made where?
Kilbowie.
Kilbowie.
Yeah, Kilbowie. Saying it right.
Kilbowie. So 328K is a zigzag, and 329K is a straight stitch only. And there's the full complement of great attachments and stuff available for these, and there's nothing wrong with the straight vertical needle machine. It's just that Singer has really pushing their slant needle proprietary thing and making that top of the line. So there's interesting differences. And the top of the lines are rotaries and gear drives with internal motors.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
When they're making these machines that are more or less expensive, is that entirely to do with like creating a sense of perceived value, or is there actually like a manufacturing cost difference between things like a rotary and an oscillating thing? Because it seems to me like they would cost the same to make. you know?
Not true.
Okay.
Especially we're still in the early days of sewing machines. Rotaries can run at a much higher speed, so the mechanical tolerances and number of parts and things required are a little more precise.
Okay.
An oscillating mechanism, whether it's class 66 or class 15, because you're talking about singers here. So those are their two oscillating ones. The class 15 is the one with the bobbin case that you take out and it goes underneath, and the class 66 is a top drop in. But if you look at the hook on either one of those, it's a back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. It's not a zzz, zzz, zzz around in a circle. So rotaries are always top of the line. They just are. In this time that we're talking about here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oscillators are in the middle. They are... One of the things I like about the oscillating shuttle machines, they're much more forgiving of wide variances in needle and thread. You can adjust, and I've done this with my long shuttle last night, which is even more adjustable and rattly and less capable of going fast, but you can adjust it to use really thick thread and really big needles, but you can't really do that with a household rotary. You'd have to get up into an industrial, right?
So kind of like the difference between a sports car with a really tight clutch versus just some beater pickup truck that you can go slamming around on logging roads.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So there is mechanical differences in the top of the line. Now, whether that's going to matter to the actual experience of Mrs. Customer or if that's just engineers wanking off, that can be debated.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, obviously there's ultimately a point at which those lines will cross. But I was just thinking, like, is this all just perceived difference, or is there like a true like effort? And yeah, even if by the time you get to the 60s, maybe it's been smoothed out pretty hard, like the legacy of the fact that it used to be a much bigger deal would still be there. That makes sense.
Yeah. And in general, rotaries are always quieter and faster. So, that's just involves a little more. Like your sports car analogy was great. Now, if we went all the way to back to our budget line there, let's see, your long shuttles and your 99. Okay, that's going to be like your little basic Chevy, some little two-door Chevy car, and then the middle line, your Style-O-Matics would be a nice family sedan, and then like the top of the line is, oh, Daddy's got a Cadillac, So
Yeah.
That's why owning a 101 or a 201 back in the day when those were like, oh my God, almost as expensive as a car. There's a lot of show involved there, but the mechanical beauty of those, and people still wank about the 201, the best sewing machine ever made. Well, from an engineering standpoint, that is definitely not very debatable. It is. It's the precision, but it's kind of a finicky machine sometimes to sew on. Anyway, back to the Style-O-Matic. Oh, another thing that would be, now this is also the era of, let's talk cabinets and cases. The 60s were people are being more mobile. There's more of an interest in portable machines. So you could get any of these machines in a portable case, but the cabinets also show the differences in the line, in the expense of the line. So the top of the line cabinets would be all wood, and then the middle of the line cabinets would be maybe pretty wood veneer over plywood, and maybe less ornate, less drawers, less features. And then your very minimalist cabinet could be a card table, because they sold special card tables for not just the Featherweight and the 301, but some of the other machines too. Or just a really minimalist cabinet that's 4 legs and a leaf that opens. That's the one that, you'll encounter at your aunt's house. Oh, wow, what's in that heavy nightstand? Let's open it up. There's a sewing machine in there, So the Style-O-Matic, who was the customer for that machine? Well, the person who wanted a singer a real singer, wanted to buy it on time and get all the cool classes and everything that went with it, but really just couldn't justify one of the big O-Matics, so I'll get a Midi-O-Matic. This is probably the household that's dad has a good job and mom's able to stay at home with the 2.2 kids. And it's right up there with they've got a car, now they've got a nice singer. It's a middle class machine. Also, it was they didn't market it. They marketed the budget 99s, or what they marketed towards, the newlywed or new graduate or whatever.
My first sewing machine.
Yeah, they had their machines kind of slotted towards, if you look at the advertising, the age groups and the income levels. And of course, everybody in the ads is white, because that's how it was in the 60s.
Right. Yeah, I was actually listening to a podcast recently talking about the invention of the teenager as an economic demographic, and like defining that. This podcast was about music in particular, but same period of like teenagers are being invented as a social class and starting to suddenly have money in a way that like they didn't before. And so that's an interesting other angle to think about young adults.
The first American teenagers were what we call boomers now.
Right.
Teenagehood was a thing that happened after World War II. They didn't really exist before that as an economic and social class. Fascinating study. And also lots of girls were going to college now. So the little cute 99 or the 185K, or especially the featherweight, since it was lightweight and portable, these went off to college with a lot of girls. And I've recently heard two stories, friends of mine. Oh, my grandma had one of those in her closet, and she, somebody gave it to her and she never used it. Gave it to her when she went to college. Like, you're a girl, you're going to need a sewing machine. She's like, I need a sewing machine.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a few minutes ago, and like this was maybe the first generation of sewing machines that started to en masse get ignored too.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's true. Before that, you had to really plan to get one, and now they're just being given like toasters.
To people who are getting more and more comfortable with buying their clothes from factories, with having the disposable income and the fashion sensitivities to not want to make their own clothes. Like that hadn't really been a thing until the post-war economic boom really hit its running stride.
Yes, which was maybe why Singer divided out their machine lines and marketed them socially differently. In different magazines.
Right. And being like, well, this feature costs more because it does, not for any actual like manufacturing reason, but just because that's how we can create a sense of exclusivity.
Yeah, the sewing machine as a status symbol has definitely faded post-war. It is not a status symbol anymore. It's more of a reminder of poor times, having to sew. That's where it starts to twist into, sewing is poor. This is like cotton is poor people's fabric. We wanted to buy all this cool synthetic fufa from Sears Roebuck and Bloomingdale's and whatever. But then the 60s came along, and who wants to sew? Young people. Why? Because this is the start of upcycling and stuff. So even if you weren't a hippie, the whole idea of making your own and looking groovy was a thing. Do you have a Style-O-Matic?
But Singer was not catering to the counterculture. The counterculture is scrounging from the
wait
fringes.
A minute.
The new machines are getting ignored.
Have you seen the Singer Genie? It's the one with the psychedelic orange flower stuff on it.
I have seen pictures of the Flower Power sewing machine. I have seen pictures of this. Yes.
Singer did. The ad campaign for that was very bell bottoms and go-go boots and boofy hair. Yeah. They were casting about, this is the 60s. The sewing machine business is crashing. Let's niche market to anybody we think we can get. Right? Which is going to bring me to the late 60s. And these are truly the last all metal Singer sewing machines, and they are often overlooked and forgotten, except by people in the know. They are out there. They are still out there all the time. They're completely nondescript, a color that people call greige.
Millennial greige before millennials.
It's kind of the most boring, tannish, gray, dull, institutional tan sewing machines. And here's the model numbers. 239 is a straight stitch. 237 is a zigzag. These are class 15, meaning you put the bobbin in the bobbin case and put it underneath. So familiar. But the fact that there's a zigzag and they're still cast iron. They're painted creamy white and they're cast iron. The only plastic thing on it is the nose cover and the top cover. And these are just dust covers. They don't do anything. The entire drivetrain is metal, is a class 15 drivetrain. It's like classic stuff. So it basically is a class 15 machine. Remember our good buddy, class 15? This is the last gasp.
Mother of all clones. This is before the cloning, or as the cloning is happening.
These have external hand wheels with motors with belts, which means you can treadle them. You can stick them right in a treadle stand and treadle them. So if you're looking for a treadle zigzag, the 237 is your guy. Highly thought of. Very good machine. Can you treadle a Style-O-Matic? I think you could. You might have to swap out the hand wheel. Can you treadle a 500A? No, because it has a built-in motor in the hand wheel. No, you can only treadle these old dudes here. So 237, 239. If you see just this plain, it's like, where's the number? It's in really tiny number, usually on the right-hand pillar, somewhere around where the stitch length dealy-hoo is. But 237, 239, 328K, 329K. And there's another one I want to stick in here, the 347 and the 348. These are the Singers you'll occasionally see that are bright robin's egg blue, but they're metal and they're squarish looking. And they're also from the 60s. I believe those were like one that had a nylon gear in it. You know, always the first thing you do, turn the hand wheel, does everything move. One more Style-O-Matic mate. I can't even remember where this one falls in the line, but you see them a lot. 457. Now we're getting into the early 70s. Way more nylon gears. The 457 is a great little machine until it breaks that top gear in the top. It just will. They all do. It's not hard to replace if you're mechanically minded and you have a few screwdrivers and a good Bob Marley soundtrack. So, say you've bought one of these machines. One of these 237, 239, 328K, 329, or the bright blue ones, one of those mid-60s and 70s Singers. And you get it home, and you're like, well, now what? And these are all of the age that you've checked the wires, right? You've ran your hands along the cords. These all are new enough that the wiring could be just fine. It's not automatically suspect. This is molded vinyl cabling. There's no unscrewable bits or cloth stuff to fall off. Plug it in. Do it. Does any smoke come out? No. Step on the foot pedal. Smoke come out of the motor? Refer back to episode. We talked about that, smoking in the motors and stuff, in one of our electricity episodes. Let's not go mechanical right now. They've covered that in other places. We'll talk about it some more later. But what do you want to do? What's the first thing you want to do? You brought home a sewing machine, and it's dirty. Of course it is. It's been sitting in somebody's basement forever, and it's got dirt and spider turds, those little black and white dots. And what are you going to clean it with? Aradia, I'm going to talk to you about this because you worked for Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, and you had to clean lots of machines. Talk about cleaning machines.
Yeah, so that was my job. That was how I got into handling sewing machines and feeling very comfortable with picking them up and disassembling them and putting them back together. I never got into the guts, right? I wasn't cleaning the core of the mechanics. My job was cleaning the outside and all of the parts that you, as the user, were going to interface with. You know, if there's whale oil way down in the belows, that's not my problem. But like if there is ancient finger crud in the set screws, that is my problem. Mike gave me a whole set of old dental tools, like little picks and stuff, so I could get into every little groove of every little screw. So I would take off all of the metal parts that I could off of the top, off of the front face, you know, like the faceplate and the other faceplate, all the screws. I would just disassemble all this stuff.
Would you take off the tension?
Yeah, I would take off the tension. I would take off the plate that goes over the stitch selector, like all of that. And I put all of those into like sometimes soapy water first, sometimes alcohol first, sometimes the other way around, you know, kind of depending on what the grunge and grime was. Because some of them would be like covered in cigarette smoke or like food stuff. And some of them were just like gently dusty, right? Like there were very different kinds of, some of them were just tacky and oily, and some of them it was very dry. So then I would, you know, just get like a paper towel with water and just wipe down the whole thing, all the little edges where stuff had been screwed down for 50 years. You know, there's just like an edge to it. And with the older machines, right, you'd have to be really careful with water. You'd have to be careful what solvent you use. By the time you get to these mid-century machines, when you're getting into the 60s and 70s, you can just throw water on them. You can just scrub them down with soap and water. And then once you're done with, you know, a gentle cloth, obviously they're not like wire brushing it or anything, but like they're just impervious to like a soft cloth with soapy water. So do all of that, just wipe it all down. If there's anywhere that's like still sticky or weird, then you start pulling out weird solvents, you know, alcohol, machine oil, whatever it is, to try to get whatever sticky other things. Maybe like there's an old like sale sticker on it, you know, from maybe one of the 17 times it went through the resale process, right? Like there's grunge on it that's unique. And then, you know, take all those other pieces off, and like literally would clean the grooves of screws and where like your fingers would twist screws because they'd get grungy and nasty. And Mike just paid me to listen to Wheel of Time and pick that stuff out. It was great. And then you put it all back on, reassemble it, not to the point of the machine, you know, works or has good tension. But I think actually I left the tension mechanism alone as a rule, but like, yeah, I disassembled as much as I safely could.
Just took it out.
Yeah, put it all back. And, you know, take out the bobbin and stuff and clean that. Put, you know, little drops of oil like on the bobbin. Put that all back on. And then I would rub the whole thing down with car polish.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I would use like a waxy car polish thing at the end. I learned the hard way that you need to wear gloves when you do that because it's very bad for your skin to have prolonged contact with that stuff. I could give myself chemical burns. Then I learned to use gloves. But yeah, that would really shine them up. That was because it would kind of like fill in all the tiny little cracks and divots. Because like I had cleaned all the dirt and grease out, but like even that sturdy, impervious surface does have little micro cracks in it. So putting that car polish on it, letting it sit for like 10 minutes and then like really like aggressively buffing it off, really brought them back into just like a brand new showroom ready shine, buffed out all the metal and made it look all pretty. That was when I would then hand it back to Mike and he would do all the final adjustments to make sure that it actually had like a good stitch experience. Because he would repair them first, right?
Right.
Like he'd already repaired them as a rule. And then he'd have me clean them. And then he would like do the final once over and make sure that the tension that I had warped in my cleaning process was like put back where it should be. And that was my process.
That was your process. So that was, again, for those of you out there flailing and foaming about water, we are talking about 1960s machines with painted finishes, more like automotive finishes. And that's really how you treat them when you're cleaning them. On the old black machines, do not. Now this this is okay. Let's warp back from our O-Matics back to, let's say, 1920. And we've got, what's in Singer's line right now? Well, we've got the 101 and we've got the 127 and the 128 and the 99. And these are all beautiful black, japanned black machines with decals, and shellac finish. That's a fragile, beautiful piece of finish there. A lot of times you'll see old machines and it looks like they're covered with a weird brown, flaky film of stuff. And a lot of people think, well, that's nicotine. No, that's failed shellac. Shellac is an excellent finish until it gets wet or gets alcohol on it. And I know the first time I ever brought home a white rotary and it was all grungy and gross. And well, I just got out my rubbing alcohol and just swiped it all over and took those decals right off.
I definitely made a few mistakes with some machines of Mike's. Fortunately, they were always, pretty beat up and gnarly machines that he was looking to get any amount of clean.
Yes.
So it was okay that I had my learning experiences on them. He never gave me a precious machine, not knowing that I was competent for it. But you have to learn these things by doing. Like there's so much you can take in verbally and then it goes in one eyeball and out the other ear and you got to learn by doing.
Yeah. So I recommend all you folks that are interested in, you can't make it any worse. Okay. Now I'm not talking about people that have a perfectly good featherweight and they want it to be magenta. That's a whole different level of finish that I know nothing. I see nothing that is out of my wheelhouse. But you got a rusty old Singer, grungy old Singer, greasy old Singer. It's chipped. It's gross. You can't wreck it, okay? Let's just pretend oh my God, I opened my front door this morning and there's a sewing machine sitting on my porch like a baby kitten. I have to keep it. Bring it in. What is it? Okay. It's one of them old black ones. The decals are crap. The whole finish is crap. What am I going to do with this? I'm going to repaint it. All right. What do? You take everything off. Everything. If you can unscrew it, take it off. And I always start with the bobbin case and the foot and the plates. And of course the needle and the needle holder and the whole tension assembly and take it all the way apart, all 11 pieces, throw everything into a margarine container. And the first thing you want to do is degrease it. First step, degrease it. Well, what do I use? I like chemicals. I use brake clean. It's a brake cleaner. It's very, you want to use it outside.
It's toxic, man.
Look at all the material data safety stuff. So, and there's lots of ways that people degrease, but your first step, take all the pieces off, degrease them. Okay, now there's the carcass sitting there. What do I do with my carcasses? I put them nose first into a 5-gallon bucket of near boiling hot soapy water with Dawn dish soap in it. Yeah, hot water. Watch that grease come rolling out of there. Woo! Watch all that old shellac come flying off of there. Woo! Boil it, literally. Get it out of there and then air dry it. Dry. Okay, so then sand. There's lots more details, but what I'm saying is first thing you got to do is get all the grease out of everything. Then after you get all the grease out, next step, derusting. There's a product that I like called Evap-O-Rust. A lot of other people use 5% white vinegar or food-grade citric acid. And basically you're going to soak all the rusty parts in that for a while till they're not rusty because there's this chemical process called chelation. It binds up the iron, the rust, and takes it off. It's amazing stuff. Then you brush it all off. Dear, you're going too fast. I haven't got the needle out yet. I'm not trying to tell you how to do this. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of the process in which you would take it. So degrease it first, then derust it. Then everything gets a nice misted coat of sewing machine oil so it doesn't rust again while you're off doing the next thing for a while. Also, when you take something apart, Aradia knows this one. We know this one. When you take something apart, take pictures of how it came apart. Because
yeah,
remember the time we took 3 Davises apart and they all got mixed up, and even though they were same machine, they weren't the same machine.
Yeah, you maybe even use multiple containers to sort out the stages or the mechanisms. You don't just put it all into one thing and assume you'll remember it goes back unless you're very familiar with the machine because it's like your seventh one.
Oh, excuse me. After I get the thing, the body now is free of grease and it's bone dry. Now I'm going to tape off every place on there that paint shouldn't go. Again, YouTube is your friend. Then primer. Then paint. Then more paint. Paint. Then decals. Then clear coat. Then it dries in your shed for like a year. That's how I do it anyway. It's probably not how you do it, and it's definitely not how a lot of the real professional people on YouTube do it. And Promethean sewing machines is a really good one. There's lots of other ones, but there are people out there that, have gotten started painting motorcycles and cars and things like that, and they really know what they're doing. But what I'm trying to get with all this rambling is just do it. Buy an old carcass and strip it and degrease it and paint it. And oops, you messed that up. Back in the boil bath. Do it over again. It's okay. It's okay. Because you know what? It'll recycle in pieces just like it would if it was a whole sewing machine. See what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to take that sucker apart. Even if you know you're not going to get it back together, you're going to learn something. How do you think I learned all this junk? I sat at my desk and stared at parts manuals, and I went back to the trade-in room and I took stuff apart. And if I didn't get it back together, oh well, it didn't matter because Singer officially didn't take trade-ins anymore anyway. So they didn't care if I killed them. They're out there, folks. Just put out the call, dead sewing machines. Bring them over. And then you learn what you can from them. You try out all your different cleaning solutions, degreasing solutions. The latest thing I'm really liking is Goop. It's a mechanics hand cleaner here in the United States. It's based on lanolin. It's the texture of pudding and it melts and it's gross. So put the whole thing on a baking sheet or something and just pack this machine full and all this stuff's going to run out. Even the sperm oil will come out. Have fun. It's like finger painting. But don't do it in your kitchen. Just, it's really messy. And a lot of this stuff stinks. But just like making your own clothes, learn to fix your own machines. Please, learn to fix your own machines. And you know what's even better? If you can help other people out with theirs. I wish I could help everybody out who has a question like Aradia. Tell us about our letter this week. I know we usually do these at the beginning of the show, but I'm saving this for the end. We have a problem in the mechanical world.
Well, first, before I tell you about that, I'm going to tell you that literally 5 minutes ago, I just got a little alert on my computer of a comment on our YouTube channel from someone saying, thank you for showing me how to use my machine.
Aww.
That just happened while we were recording. But to get to the letter, this one got lost in the shuffle of our inbox, but it is from our friend, Let's Get Sewing. And the question is, I found a Davis for my grandson so he can sew leather. I bought the industrial long needles, but because there is no flat side, the needle shaft seems too fat for the groove it goes into. And when we tighten the needle screw, the needle is too far out and hits the needle plate hole edge. How did you make yours work? And then we got pictures to show that this is, in fact, the correct needle and the correct machine. And I recognize this. And I even know the answer to this because I remember you doing this for me last summer.
Do it.
So the answer to this is you have to drill the groove for the needle bigger. You got to make sparks in a safe location. I remember you doing this on the driveway. But you actually have to make that hole or the groove bigger to fit the needle.
The groove in the needle bar has to be deepened.
Yes, deepened. There you go. That's a better word for it.
So yeah, the long groove on the Davis needle bar, you'll notice it's, if you've got a Davis, or if you look at our video on the Davis, Aradia put a link to that in our show notes today. I think we go through this, but I didn't warn you that, yeah, you have to do one of two things. Because you're right. When you put that industrial needle on there, it does not have a flat side, so it cannot sink into the needle bar and line up with the needle hole like it's supposed to. So you either have to flatten the correct side of the needle, difficult. Or you have to deepen the groove in the needle bar itself, much more doable. I used a Dremel tool. I also messed around with one of my guitar fret files, and that worked pretty good. It is a lot of trial and error. And if you do take out too much, you can always refill it back in a little bit with solder or super glue. But the idea is to take, 128th of an inch? I don't know how to measure that small, but look at the flat side of a needle and picture it being round, and that's how much you have to take out of that groove. Yeah, gosh. I should offer this as a service because I keep telling people, yeah, just use the MTX 190 needle, and then I forgot to tell you, about this modification. So, yeah.
Maybe you should start collecting Davis needle bars and drilling them out.
Ooh, modifying them.
Moving them out.
That's a good. But remember when we took those 3 Dave I apart? I only found one of the. I'm gonna have to look.
That's true.
I'm still spread out all over 3-4 different locations, and I sure can't wait to get my shop going again.
Well, then people could send their bars to you and the needle in question, and I don't know. We'll figure it out. Mike can help us.
Yeah, maybe this person has. If they don't, maybe they're a jeweler and they go, "Oh yeah, I got all those tools," or someone you know. But what has to happen is that groove that the needle goes into needs to be deepened just a little bit. And like I said, I use the cutoff wheels on my Dremel tool. And it took a few. Now here's what you don't want to do. Don't make the needle hole bigger. That's not going to work right because the needle is too far away from where the shuttle is going to pick up the loop, right? The needle is actually physically too far over now. The hole is where it needs to be. So the needle bar needs to be modified itself. If you want to try to grind the flat side of the needle, it has to be absolutely perpendicular to the eye. And needle steel is very, very hard. So I've never tried that. I don't know whether that would work. But you're right, I should offer that service. Anyway, now I'm not threaded. Dang it.
Well, thank you very much to Liz Pike of Let's Get Sewing that question, for staying engaged. Also, I was just looking at our messages from Liz, and we got sent a post about Singer sewing machine decals.
Ooh.
LR Crafts.
Ooh.
Heard of LR Crafts?
I have not. But their decals are available. I skipped over that part. You can buy reproduction decals.
This is a decal nerd. That's what this is.
Ooh.
This is a database of stuff. This is recorded Singer decal sets.
Oh my gosh.
This is nerdery.
Oh my gosh, because I really want there's 3 that I really want. I mean, I would buy the machines just if they had the decals on them. Decalomania was a thing, people, and they're right around 1800, 1890s to 1910. Just beautiful stuff. Singer had a lot of, what's their one called? Dogwoods. I really like. Oh, so yeah. Okay, where is this? I need to find this.
lrcrafts.it.
Ooh, Italy?
The link will be in the description of this episode for all of our listeners, but I am having a great time scrolling this absolute nerd trove of information.
I found the reproduction decals for my Davis in Australia. Good decals, usually they give you a few practice pieces because I really messed up a couple sets because I didn't follow the instructions because I get excited. Blah, blah, blah. Follow the instructions.
Yeah. So again, thank you very much, Liz, for reaching out and being engaged with us. That's fantastic. And this website's very, very cool. I hope that our answer to your question was helpful. Please do continue to reach out if you have more questions about that or anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. I'm just still thinking about these Davis needle bars. It's like, damn. Do we have anything else today?
I believe that's all we've got for this week.
I hope you find some useful scraps in all this stuff here. It was really nice of y'all to hang out with us. And next week, I think we're going to go back to Japan. Talk about machine. So until then, get threaded.
And there you have it, another series of loosely organized tangents around mid-century, mid-tier Singer sewing machines. We learned that the different price points weren't entirely invented by the marketing team, reflected on how this was the first era of sewing machines to be ignored at scale, talked about our various methods of cleaning and reinvigorating the aesthetic of a mid-century machine, and finished giving important details about how one can use new needles in an old Davis machine. I personally have never painted or decaled a sewing machine, and I'm not likely to, but this episode did bring back pleasant sense memories of cleaning machines for Mike, and now I almost want to try my hand at applying a decal set. Maybe someday. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, who first hired me as a cleaner. You can reach them at srvsew@gmail.com. Follow us on social media and YouTube, and you can best support us by sharing the podcast with your friends. You can even get ad-free episodes by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/used2sew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.